I hate being on call with every fiber of my being. So, when I hear one of the biggest concerns about direct primary care or a small private practice, and that is being on call, I get it. I totally get it. So, let's talk about that. I'm Dr. Hartman, the medical matchmaker. One of the things that you want to remember when you're thinking about being on call as a hospital employed physician versus a direct primary care physician or private practice doctor is how many patients you'll be covering for. So, quite obvious, if you're employed by a large clinic, there are going to be a large amounts of patients. So if there are 30,000 patients that you are on call for, you're going to get a lot more calls than if they are 400 patients. So when looking at a position and asking about the on-call, you want to ask, how many patients are you on call for? Because that makes a huge, huge difference. There's a lot that goes into being on call. So when you're on call as a direct primary care physician or a private practice physician, these are your patients. These are the patients that you have set the boundaries with. So if you're applying for a job, this is important to ask. How do you set boundaries with patients? What do you do? There's a few ways that you can do that. When I'm with patients, I'll educate my patients on all the different scenarios. So if this happens, make sure to do this. If this happens, do this. And then I type it up and send it to them so that they have it in writing and they can't forget, because let's face it, they are human beings and they're going to forget just like you and I forget when we go to the doctor. So having it written down really, really helps. And then I educate them on what it means to be on call. So I'll say, hey, if something is really urgent and you cannot wait for the next day, then that's what I'm on call for. And I tell them I do not do med refills after hours. I don't answer questions that can wait. If you're sick enough to go in to be seen, then go in to be seen. And I really do think there are nice ways of doing this. They are human beings and they care about you. I think you'd be surprised how much they actually, your patients care about you. So setting those boundaries makes a huge, huge, huge difference. And really every physician in the practice should be setting the same boundaries, because if you have one physician who will just essentially do entire visits at 3 a.m. and another one who really protects that after hours time, that may not mesh so well. So you want to make sure that the doctors that you're taking call with take call in the same way that you do. One of the other great things about private practice or direct primary care is that you have the ability to fire your patients. So if you are in a practice where maybe someone is calling every night at midnight, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and they don't get it, they don't understand that you're a human being who needs sleep, you can fire them. This is not so easy in a hospital employed position, oftentimes, or not even a hospital, just a large corporate owned practice. They don't often allow us to fire our patients, even if it's a safety issue. So that's something important that you want to ask about as well. And don't forget, nurse triage is huge. That can cut down the calls from 25 a night to 1 a night. So look into that. Of course, there is a cost associated with that. So if you're a private practice, that may not be something you can do right now. But I do think it's important to set the boundaries, to make sure patients know that med refills will not be done after hours. There's a lot of thought on saying that you should charge for after hours visits, and that's everyone feels a little bit, or after hours phone calls, and that's debatable. I often think about, I believe it was in the Freakonomics book where they talked about charging parents for picking up their kids late from preschool, and what they found is that it actually increased the amounts of parents that picked their kids up late because they figured, hey, they're getting reimbursed and this is cheap babysitting. So I don't know what would happen in practices that have charged for this, and I'd be really curious if you are one of those practices for you to comment and let me know, did it increase your patient call volume or did it decrease it? We should be getting paid for the work that we're doing, and especially if it's waking us up at night or interrupting our kid's birthday party or whatever. The other thing to know is that some insurance contracts require the practices to take calls after hours. You can have call available until 10 p.m. and that would satisfy that insurance requirement. And then if they're need after that time, then they need to go to the urgent care or ER. So I feel like I got a little bit off topic here. The plan was to talk about taking call as a direct primary care physician, which is the one of the biggest concerns I see from physicians thinking about direct primary care. And I'll tell you that taking call as a DPC doc is what you make it. So it can be great and it can be not so great. So it's really up to you. And if you're joining another practice, it's up to that practice how they do it. Everyone feels very differently, and every direct primary care practice does it differently. So ask them, see how they do it, and you get to decide how you do it. If you would like to join a direct primary care or physician-owned practice, or even start your own, let me know. You can find me at www.happydayhealth.co, and I would love to hear from you.